Hello there and welcome back to Music That Doesn't Suck, the place where we talk about music that actually doesn't stink. Today we're gonna be talking about this very terrible definition, or this stupid concept that is known as that's rock. First and foremost, what on earth does that mean? The stunning and brave, and I gotta say, beautiful Terry Remini, who is saying hello to girls and boys.
So before we get to the topic at hand, hello girls and boys, how's it going? I'm very glad you're back and it's great to have you here as well. The whole thing with dad's rock, first and foremost, don't like the term.
Why?
Because
It's kind of it's not necessarily positive, right?
no, it's always said with a hint of
Yes, elitism.
you listen to dad's rock.
yeah. Are you into that? Boomer. Yes.
So I don't like it, especially because when it comes to the kind of music that is usually referred to, it's usually great.
It tends to be very good music.
But look, before we can get into dad's rock and the full scope of this conversation,
Yes.
would you introduce us to today's mix?
Yeah, today's mix it's actually quite audacious, I may say. It's the first time that I actually do something like this, make something like this. This is known as a coffee mug, but inside of it, allegedly, trust me, bro, it's a beverage called Café Diablo or something like that, if I recall
Yes.
correct. So this is 6 ounces of coffee, hot coffee. It could be espresso, it could be whatever, but it gotta be 6 ounces. Then you gotta add as well cognac, 1 ounce of cognac, half an ounce of Controy, and lemon and what's the name? Orange peels,
Yeah.
and 2 cloves. And you gotta boil the beverage without the coffee, because you pour the coffee first on a mug. And then you gotta boil the beverage and the mixture of ingredients on a pan, and then once start to get bubbles, you throw a goddamn match on fire, so it all lips up in a beautiful display of prowess and fire.
Mostly peaceful. Of
Mostly
course.
peaceful, of course. And then you pour it on the coffee mix, and
And voila.
voila. So let's say first time I tried it.
Yeah, salute. It's weird.
It's weird, but I don't hate it.
No, it's not bad. It's weird.
It's weird because you're
Yeah.
expecting coffee, right?
Yeah.
But it's not coffee.
Yeah, the thing
It
is,
has coffee.
the coffee of course is still present, but it's weird because it kind of loses definition. It doesn't taste like cognac.
No,
It doesn't taste like orange.
No.
And it doesn't taste like coffee.
no.
It's something entirely new.
Café Diablo.
It's a Café Diablo. No?
Yeah, I see myself. The more I drink it, the more I like it actually. So let's begin.
Okay, so
That's rock.
that's rock.
What's that's rock?
Usually you would see that's rock being attributed to, let's say, classic rock bands from 60s, 70s, and sometimes even all the way to 80s.
I wouldn't say now. It's even 90s.
For real?
The 90s happened 30 years ago, man.
Yeah, those guys are dads. Early 90s.
Yeah. If you were 10 years old when the 90s began,
Yeah,
you're 40 now.
true. Damn.
Plus 40 plus.
And how does that make you feel?
But yeah, exactly. That's the question. But so that's rock.
The thing that we need to niche down a little bit, because if we're talking about four decades of music,
I'm gonna put it this way. in my understanding, or to my understanding better, the whole concept of that's rock, it's music that is usually listened to by dads, and dads tend to be a particular category of people based on the age group. So we're talking about probably people around 40, the bracket probably 45 all the way up to octogenarians. No,
no, I think
let's
that's too much.
say
Like
70s,
Yeah.
the early 70s.
Yeah, because look, I think most of the times that I at least heard the term was coming out of the mouth of a millennial,
Yes,
talking about a boomer on the most part.
and Summers as well.
Yeah, but I think
So
yeah,
so now that we kind of understand that it's kind of oriented or trying to describe people who listens to a particular kind of or music that is listened to a particular set of people based on the age group. What kind of bands they tend to be?
okay. Would you say that, for instance, Led Zeppelin, it's dad's rock?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's badass.
Yeah, but it's not about being bad. That's the point we're going to be making later on, because Led Zeppelin, Eagles, Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac would fall into that category.
Of course, man.
You think it's dad's rock? I don't
It
think
is.
so.
or soccer moms, or wine aunt? Which one?
Yeah, the thing that there's a good taste, a wine aunt with good taste, but I don't think so because I think it's kind of more poppy. I think usually it's more on the classic side of things, like your
Steely
Deep
Dan?
Purples, Steely Dan to some degree.
Yeah.
Uh,
David Bowie.
David Bowie's way too crazy.
Nah, but it's that's rock, full on, man.
Is it?
Starman,
True.
and also Major Tom. Full on.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
rock.
it is. It is.
Full
indeed.
on, that's rock. AC/DC, clearly,
It is.
clearly. What else? Metallica, early Metallica.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think so because Metallica.
No, wait. Black Album, only Black Album. Is that rock?
It's kinda.
Because
it's
it gotta be popular as well, right?
It's gotta be popular. Yes, but I don't think I would fit Metallica in the whole bundle of That's Rock
Why?
because Metallica became popular in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like late 90s to early 2000s. They hit it very big.
No.
Like I'm talking hitting it very
No,
big.
They were bigger in the early 90s. The Black Goddamn album,
When did that come out?
91.
91.
Yes.
It was later.
No.
Yeah, so they're not.
It's because you got too late to the party, man. But yeah,
Kinda.
because 90, I think Load was in 96 and Reload in 97. And I might be wrong because I think Garage Inc. was also released either 97 or 98.
But you know why I don't think Metallica fits the bill?
Why?
Because That's Rock is usually coming from the previous generation, criticizing something they don't like
Yeah, good
about the
point.
previous generation.
Good point.
People still like Metallica. The young kids from today, well, the ones that like rock, they like Metallica.
Probably. No, yeah, you're making sense. I don't have any argument against what you just said. But still, you might be wrong. but look, from that perspective, for example, Journey, full on That's Rock.
It is.
Styx, full on That's Rock.
It's such a great man.
All of them are great, man, and that's actually we're starting to get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
All of those bands kick me your ass.
But look, we need to spend a little bit more time
Whitesnake,
on a per band basis, or else we.
yeah, the good point. I'm just trying to just to encapsulate the whole concept.
Because look,
Look it.
are you looking?
Yeah, you better.
Is Styx really That's Rock? Was Styx big enough to be That's Rock?
Yeah, they actually were one of those arena rock bands back in the late 70s.
Okay. And now they're kind of faded when it comes to the newer generations, right?
Full on. So full on. I think that's a good way. Styx, using Styx as reference is a good way to define the whole concept of that rock.
Yeah, because I think the biggest the band was on its time, and the further it fell down when it comes to
Popularity.
its popularity, especially talking about newer generations.
Yes.
I think that's the quintessential That's Rock
Yeah, because for
territory.
example, but AC/DC men are popular, but it's super That's Rock.
The thing is
It's
that,
more. I think it's more on the kind of sound than on its popularity, man.
but I don't think AC/DC is cutting through with the new kids.
No, but man, Iron Man. It's
But-
those songs. The thing is that man, you've been to the gym and they play freaking Thunderstruck.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a song from Iron Man. It's those guys,
but
man.
that doesn't count. It's like saying the same, but about what's the name of the song by Fleetwood Mac that got popular.
Yeah,
because
the
of,
chain as well is the one from Guardians of the Galaxy. Man, yeah, dude, that's it. That's the issue. Is that rock made popular again? You see, because they're capitalizing on the member berries and the awesomeness of those songs
Yeah.
to catapult something that otherwise would be a mediocre to bad product.
But look, it might be the case that those accidents of, let's say, single songs popping up, resurfacing after the band has gone a little bit into obscurity, they might be the case of the exception that proves the rule. Because since the newer generations get acquainted to a band through one song, they don't know of the existence of the band, they don't know of its importance, they don't know of its magnitude at their time.
Man, I don't even think that they care for the song at all. They just want to be part of the clique.
Yes, but because of that, the band comes into their radar, and now they think, oh, this is Dead Rock.
But-
because it's a band that came back into existence, it was basically resuscitated.
But would it be that we're kind of overcomplicating the whole definition? So how about
Maybe.
this? It's music that your dad listens to.
My dad likes samba.
Yeah, but
Is that rock? No.
no. But in
Bad
general,
definition.
it's a bad example. You're the problem, man. It's not me. No,
The
but-
kids, they're wrong.
Yeah, the kids are wrong. Yeah, no, but I think it's more due to the fact that dads were young during the 80s. Some of them during the late 70s.
Yeah.
And when the kids grew up during the early 2000s, what was popular is the Simpsons thing. Yeah, it used to be. I used to be in the you know, but where I always butcher that joke. But it's that, and I think it's either the fact that it's listened to by your dad, and also you got that that your dad is going through the middle life crisis. So both of those happens at the same time, and since badass music from their youth makes them feel younger, they tend to do middle life crisis things while blasting "Welcome to the Jungle." If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
I think that's the most appropriate and easy way to describe it.
It's a bit of a cringy image, but yeah.
Yeah, and I can see why it got not necessarily the best of connotations.
No, but it's unjustifiable.
It's unjustifiable.
You should judge the music by the music.
Yes, I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong because all of the bands that we have mentioned so far are fantastic. I think now from here, how about if we move over that's rock bands, and see how much they are cool or not.
But look, before we get to it,
Yes.
let's take it from a different perspective.
Go.
What kind of music did your dad listen to? Did he listen to Dad's Rock?
I don't even know if he listens to music at all.
No Dad's Rock in your house when you were a kid?
Oh no, nothing.
I listened.
That explains everything, right?
Yeah, probably. I had some Dad's Rock in my house, but it wasn't coming from my dad. It was coming from my mom.
I'm in the same category, man. If you know what I mean.
But it's Mom's Rock.
It is.
Is there such a thing as Mom's Rock?
It is.
And what is it?
Is the patriarchy still taking over? Is that rock, regardless of gender? It's gender neutral. Look at that.
Is it? Look at that. How inclusive.
It's been inclusive since the beginning. So yeah. Okay, so
Queen.
It's full on that rock.
Is it?
Full on.
Why?
Because he's old. No, it's because.
But it's still around.
No. Is it still around?
Or is it?
Is it exactly? Because I don't know how. Yeah. Because think about this. Most kids, not even kids, man, people around our age, they got introduced to these bands through whom? Yes, that's why. And since most kids nowadays, and not nowadays, it's part of nature. You try to rebel. You try to make your own ground. You want to create your own path for yourself. When you get to a certain point in life, and you try to do everything that your parents are not doing, and one of them is listening to good music. Well, just open the window and tell me if everything's going correctly. But I think it's part of that rebellious attitude where the whole thing of that rock began.
Makes sense. And look, it might even be on the parents' the fault. Look, you already expose the human nature side of it.
Yes.
Let's say a teenager wanting to rebel, that's nothing new. That's simply how it is.
That's actually the way it should be.
That's to be expected.
Yes.
Now, picture the scenario. A dad likes Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
His kid just became an early teenager. Said, okay, now's the time to introduce my kid to the good shit.
Yes.
It's the worst time.
It is.
Because the kid's gonna be entering the rebellious phase, and whatever you show him, he's gonna go on the complete opposite direction.
But how
You're basically pushing him into hip hop.
Yeah, but how about if you tell a kid that hip hop is wrong since the beginning?
Worse.
No, wait. At a Pavlovian level.
You're talking from a kid, not from a...
No, I said kid, yes, not as a teenager.
Okay.
You already set them in a path on which they will rebel not against you, against the freaking system. They will become autonomous. They will think for themselves.
I think that's a very optimistic scenario that you're painting.
No. What I'm saying is that I'm putting the blame on the parents because I'm using myself as an example. I grew up like that. With all the good and the bad. You can imagine how much good I got out of this. No, what I'm saying is that you can have a kid that thinks like that, but it's more on the way you raise them.
Yeah, I think example kind of matters, but example at the right time.
Yes, I get you. I get your point. I'm just trying to avoid that consequence.
Yeah.
Because I can see what you say. It makes sense. Because if you, I'm not a parent yet, but I can see how if you do it correctly at the very early stages, you shoot yourself in the foot to the point of almost you playing the cello with it, but whatever.
But look, question.
Go.
Because this scenario that you're painting here, kind of is hanging on the father or the parents having quite a lot of input when it comes to what the kid listens to.
Yes.
Do you think that is still a possibility nowadays with the internet as it is?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you go on, let's say, Instagram, and you're gonna listen to all kinds of stuff, more likely a barrage of stuff that you wouldn't want your kid to listen to.
Yeah, but it's inevitable. So the approach wouldn't be not trying to protect them from that. It's training them and teaching them how to develop critical thinking, so they can, as soon as they say this shit, next one. Yeah, just tell them not to, just bring them or raise them up in a way that allow them to be able to see the difference between good and evil.
But when it comes to exposition, it's way more likely that your kid's gonna be more exposed to shit
Exactly.
than to good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's already acknowledging that they will be exposed to terrible things since the beginning because you have no control over it.
Yeah.
So the only way you have to intervene there is by giving them the tools to be able to make decisions that are based on reason and righteousness rather than following the cheaple.
Makes sense.
So I don't see why it could be a problem. I see it. I know what the problem is, but I don't see why it could be that problematic. The thing is that you have to be aware, man. And I think that what you're proposing, the fact that the whole concept of that rock became a thing out of rebellious or out of the rebellious attitude of a teenager, it's because of poor parenthood.
It might be the case.
You're saying, I don't know, but it looks like it.
Maybe yours lacking.
Happens. Yes. Yeah. I was supposed to make a very racially driven joke, but I don't know. So,
well, look, okay, with that out of the way.
Yeah, bands that are part of that rock category.
Yeah, so we can go from the perspective. You having a kid, what would you introduce to your kid to get him on the right path of life?
Dimmu Borgir.
Just from the get-go.
No, of course not. Because
Like when he's 3.
No,
that's the
yeah.
time.
Actually, I think the younger the kid is, the heavier the stuff you can present to them because they are less biased.
You think so?
Yeah, because they're gonna react to it naturally and spontaneously. You saw it when my cousin was not my cousin, whatever.
True. Yeah.
He's my nephew, whatever.
She is your nephew.
Oh, yes, she is. Was around the studio.
Nephew? Now I'm kind of lost.
It's my relative, wherever.
Regardless, a younger relative.
Yeah, because it's not. Yeah, it's not necessarily direct.
Yeah.
But it's still. Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah, we get it. I don't know. We blasted something on the speakers, and she was like, "Yeah."
It was Van Halen, no?
It was Bang. Yeah, something like that.
No, it was
Jorn.
It was Jorn.
Even more obscure.
Yeah, and awesome.
Bad, freaking good one. And the kid was like what, a year and a half, probably 2 years old, blasting it.
Do you think Jorn is that rock?
Yeah, it sounds like that rock.
But it's not from that
No,
rock era.
it's not them being old or not. It's the sound, and the sound is attributed to that particular era. It's a style, man, and it's a huge problem. But let me just keep on with this one because it's actually a good example. The girl blasted, man. She was having a great time, and she reacted immediately as soon as the song went. Like, wait a second, this is good. Yeah, we let the song roll, and she was like,
I think it was Life on That Road, right?
"Yeah, come on, man." She was like, "Damn, this is bad."
Why wouldn't her?
Yes. Then I show her Pat Martino on guitar, and she liked it a lot. And all of a sudden, weeks later, she didn't like it anymore. Why? Bad parenting. Yeah, because she was forced to listen to the shitty children music that doesn't pay respect to her intellect. Yeah, all of that crap. So yeah, I don't think it has to deal with age, man. The younger you are, the less biases you got in your head. The purest your reaction is to music.
So Dimmu Borgir, your first pick to introduce a kid to
I would
to
do
the path of righteousness.
it would be part of the showcases. I would begin with Death Cult Armageddon.
That's rock.
Yes, that's metal, man. So the kid like, in mind, I thought it like, I'm listening to the dun, 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 at the beginning. Yes, that's fucking so good. But it's It could be considered kind of that rock.
I don't.
Wait. Because the style is been out of fashion for almost 20 years now.
The thing is that you're stretching the definition of that's rock.
Okay, whatever. Explain yourself then. What would be? Give me a band that is that rock.
Journey.
Journey, yes,
Yeah. Wouldn't you introduce a kid to Journey?
as well. I'm not
Yes.
saying that it's just gonna be blasting black metal, but but it could be good. But for example, Journey, quintessential that rock, is it?
No, I don't think it's quintessential. I think quintessential that's rock.
Creedence,
Hmm?
Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's uber. That's rock.
I think those bands that they
Lynyrd
are
Skynyrd.
kind of like Lynyrd Skynyrd as well.
Super that rock.
Actually, now I'm seeing that some of the most that's rock bands, the quintessential ones, are the super American ones, like Lynyrd Skynyrd or Eagles or stuff like that.
Cream is
Yeah.
super that's rock.
It's super that's rock because I think it's more attributed to American rock than it is to British rock.
But let me think of a British band. The Animals, man. That's super that's rock.
The Eagles is more.
Yeah, the Eagles. Yeah, but you're starting to get somewhere. I'm trying to think of another British act.
Because for instance, is the Beatles that's rock?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think it is, because I don't know how many Zoomers. I mean Zoomers not in the rock and roll sphere, because everybody who's into rock has listens to them, or will eventually listen to the Beatles at one point in their lives.
Yeah.
It's part of the rites of passage, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many Zoomers who are in the mainstream would actually give a try to the Beatles if it's not forced down their throat through a Marvel movie. Just saying.
No.
Because that's part of what makes it that rock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's dated. Oh, it doesn't sound like a insert rapper. Here.
But look, the Beatles doesn't sound a lot like many of the bands that we talked about here. Because let's say Eagles
Yeah.
is the centerpiece for that rockness. Okay?
Yeah.
The Beatles
What makes it? But what makes it?
I think this simple association. I think that is the first band that comes to mind at least.
Yeah, but look, I think it's the sound, man.
Mm.
Because I think it's the combination of the aesthetics of the mix, or the mixing style,
Mm-hmm.
The production.
Mhm.
Because think of Hotel California.
Yeah.
How big does the kick drum sound?
Yeah.
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it even has this kind of,
Almost reggae-like thing.
yeah, but also it's not aggressive,
Mhm.
but it's aggressive enough.
Mm-hmm.
The singing, great singing, and he's a drummer. Great singing.
Some of the best singing.
Some of the singing, some may say even the best. No, but it's actually has this particular twang to it that
Mhm.
it's kind of from that era.
Mm-hmm.
Badass guitar solos, and not in the
Yeah.
stupid way.
Mm-hmm.
Musical, using boomer bands, which is also another term that I hate. That is
Mhm.
very popular among those so-called Instagram musicians.
What's the difference between that's rock and boomer bands?
Boomer bands is the equivalent to that rock, but for guitar players. It's the guitar playing, it's the style. That's why I think it's
okay.
more about the sound and the style rather than the period.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole naming convention comes from the age group
Mm.
for the people, or the age group of the people who listens to this kind of music
Okay.
in general. Because Tears for Fears, it's
Mhm.
also that rock.
Is it?
Yeah, come on, man. Of course it is. It is Duran.
Oh yeah.
That rock,
yes,
rock galore. Even at this stage, I would even dare to say that even the Cranberries are kind of that rock. Yeah.
But we're getting to the 90s.
Yeah, man. But the thing is that the 90s happened 30 years ago.
For as much as we don't
For
want
as
to
much as
admit.
you're trying to deny it to yourself, man. Man, just think of the terrible cover by Alien Ant Farm, or whatever the name of the band was, of The Smooth Criminal.
Yeah.
25 years old.
That's a terrorist attack against humanity.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
But it happened 25 years ago. Yes.
Damn.
Damn it. No, for real. Stop thinking like that, man. That particular thing that happened in New York.
Nirvana. That's rock?
Yeah. Soundgarden as well. Why? Why? Those bands still kind of have plenty of the elements that makes the sound of the 80s and the 70s present in them.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Pearl Jam 10.
Yeah.
The guitar solos. Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
The entire thing. That's why that album is so good, man.
Yeah.
Nirvana, even though it's a more modern sounding, still sounds very unique. Or not unique, not dated. I don't want to use that word because it's not dated.
Yeah.
It sounds Like
all
it-
these.
all yeah, but it's not even you get me. I get you.
I know.
Is the one that sounds the closest to the concept because it's not. It doesn't sound like anything from the 2000s, man.
No.
Because the 2000s you got probably that's the beginning of the concept or the term, because you got mainstream rock. It turned into copies of Foo Fighters and Nickelback, and in the 2010s. It was basically Kings of Leon and what the other guys, Franz Ferdinand, and all those guys.
The Strokes and
The Strokes
the
and that's even
Killers, all of
those,
those.
the Strokes and the Killers are from the early 2000s as well, because you got the mainstream ones and the alternative ones. You got your what's the name of these guys? Arctic Monkeys and all those guys. And then in the 2010s you got and even Muses from there as well.
Yeah.
Ohida and Cambria. All of those bands are from the 2000s period. It doesn't sound like that rock.
No.
It sounds like the 2000 stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of dated, maybe by today's time. I don't know. It's been a while since I gave them a listen, but it's a sound that is very unique to that period. Because there's that you played for whatever reason a track by Nickelback.
Yeah.
You showed me one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it sounds like I felt like I was playing Halo 2. You get me? It has that particular sound that is very unique to that particular period of time. Super loud, bombastic, ridiculous, scooped in the middle, at least the guitars.
Yeah.
The production sounds very. The vocals are very loud. No guitar solos because we don't do that. That's for old people. You see.
And look, even that attitude of that is for old people, that is at the very core of the concept of that rock.
It is.
And I even think that I'm refurbishing my definition of what that rock is.
Go.
I think that's rock is whatever is very far from what's current.
I like that one better.
Basically, let's say that the whole phenomenon of that rock happened amongst late millennials and Zoomers.
Yes.
All right. So whatever they like, whatever is different from that is that's rock.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good definition.
Yeah.
Because it's not even the period.
No.
It's not even the style. Well, it's the style. But the style is quite unique to that period. Makes sense.
No, now what about resurgences? Because look, we went
good point.
we went into through an 80s kind of revival. More than likely, we have a 90s revival ahead of us.
It's already making a night Reddit with the fury of 1,000 suns.
Those bring the acts from that era to the newer generations in a certain light. Would you think that, let's say, in 5 years, when Nirvana is gonna be hip again, would they consider Nirvana that's rock?
The band itself, maybe. The sound, I don't even know if rock music is gonna survive being in the mainstream. Another 5 years of this. But no, being frank,
Yeah.
I don't think, because I don't even think that rock music is popular right now, by any stretch of imagination.
Popular, it isn't.
No, but even in the mainstream, man, because I don't even think that people in the mainstream listens to rock music. And where passes for rock, I think is gonna be Imagine Dragons and all of those Wine Ant, Coldplay, all of those. That's Wine Out music, not necessarily that's rock.
No.
Why? Because those guys doesn't have even guitars.
Yeah. It's 1 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah,
stuff.
it's that kind of shit. Yeah. So now, a good example, Eagles. You mentioned them. I like that because it's an easy way to describe the sound. But also, let's pick something. YouTube. That's rock.
I don't think it's that's rock.
It is, man. It is obviously because think of who else plays like The Edge? Copycats. No, but copycats.
No, but like.
But that's
his sound.
And even the way that they create the structure of their songs, it's very. That's rocky, man.
The thing is that they don't sound like that's rock. They
Why?
don't sound like any of the
It's
oldies.
arena rock, man.
But they don't sound like the oldies.
They do. Come on, man.
I don't think so.
Come on, man. You're still, man. I have to remind you that Elevation happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, but still, where?
And if you go to Joshua Tree and all of those guys, man, that was 10 years earlier. Dude, those guys, man.
Well, once again, we're not looking at it from the time perspective now. Let's try to focus on the sound.
The sound itself,
I don't think they sound like that's rock.
Come on, of course they do, man. It's like Duran Duran or Tears for Fears. It's one of those bands that have a little bit more of a poppier take on their sound, but they don't sound like modern pop. But far from it, and even alternative rock, my ass.
Would you say that Michael Jackson is that rock?
Yeah, it is. It is. Because the thing is that it's not about what I think, man. It's not about what you like. It's about what they say. Because I'm against the concept. I'm not gonna defend anybody.
Yeah.
Or I'm not trying to cope. Because I'm against the whole concept of that rock.
I agree.
But I think it's very, 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 very clear that everything that is not modern sounding, mind you, is already thrown into that bin.
What about modern bands that sound kind of old?
I think they are also categorized as a new band that sounds like that rock.
Because-
And that's where the whole thing with boomer bands kicks in.
What's the name of that band that sounds like Led Zeppelin?
They're totally not ripping them off.
They're totally not reading them off.
Greta Thunberg and Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van Fleet.
Yes.
Would you say that they are that rock band
Yeah,
because of the sound?
yes. It's not about being new or old, man. It's a sound. It's a style. And the whole boomer band thing, I think it was the guy from Polyphia, that kid. In an interview with Rick Beato, the guy casually mentions that, I don't like to do those boomer bands. And Rick goes, what? Yeah, that kind of the traditional,
The good stuff.
the good stuff, the musical stuff. And Rick like, damn, who was about take? You're gonna get into, and you can imagine. But that showed you the mentality, the attitude, the pedantic, and the I am better than thou
Yeah.
attitude. So you're telling me that guy, and this is not a hot take, and if you get pissed or mad by what I'm about to say, I don't care. Are you telling me that guy is more important than Eddie Van Halen? Does that guy think that it's more important than Jimi Hendrix?
Not in his wildest dreams.
No, he's not even close to them, man. And look, I should be his target audience because he plays progressive rock, and I love prog rock, and I can't stand their music. It's boring as all balls.
The thing is that since by his own definition and by the way that he tackles appreciation for music, he denies everything that was great about the great stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't bring that into his own music, and it shows.
It clearly shows. But you can see now why. He has an aversion to it.
Yeah.
And the question is, why do you develop such an aversion? Probably because you don't like music, man. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could it be because you think you can change the world? So, talking about the ego, I'm just saying. Because whenever you see an interview of one of those guys, the guys who actually created the whole rock and roll thing,
Yeah.
I just do what I can.
Yeah.
Because in mine being Jimmy Page during the late 70s, and all of a sudden, have you heard this guy? Van Halen 1. Done?
Yeah.
No, man, I might be part of the most important, best band in rock history,
Yeah.
but this guy kicks my ass. And I can't imagine when they listen to for the first time to freaking Eruption.
Yeah.
Man, it might be
Mind blowing.
No,
It's mind blowing.
But being Jimmy Page, man.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't even know how do you do that?
It's a lesson in humility.
Yeah, boom.
Yeah.
And who the hell is this kid? Damn.
The new kid in the block.
Oh, man. And did you see something like that happening with these modern non-boomer like non-that's rock sound happening? Something similar?
And look,
Actually divided.
then look in the actual good ones. Let's say, what's the name of the guy from Animals as Leaders? The guitar
Tosin
player,
Abasi.
Tosin Abasi. I think out of that genre, out of the style, he's probably the only one that I like.
Yeah.
He's very good. Not only he's very good, he's actually a good
Musical,
musician.
yeah, he is.
And he's respectful.
Yeah.
He actually plays quite a lot of respect.
Yes.
He feels humble.
Yeah.
And he clearly respects quite a lot all of the work that was done that allowed him to be the guitar player that he is now.
100%.
And you don't see the same kind of attitude in some
No.
of the other guys.
No, and I consider myself a fan of him, not of his music, but I like him as a person because he's very down to earth. He knows that he's extremely stupidly good,
Yeah, yes.
but he's not. He doesn't treat anybody with disrespect, and also he's not trying to convince the world that he's the newest, the next push in guitar playing. No,
Yeah.
he's part of.
But look, I think now that we're getting to a whole new part of this conversation, I think it does come from millennials, for the most part. This whole attitude of
Once
that
again,
rock.
every freaking time.
But why? I think on the most part, millennials were thought that they are the most educated, the most special, the most important generation ever,
The entitlement.
and they are here to change the world. Every single one of us, because I'm actually a millennial, even though my stance, you can clearly see what I think.
Yes. I
is,
get you.
is like every single one of us is the chosen one.
Yeah, everybody's Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I get you.
So why would I care about what was done before if I'm here to break the cycle? To be,
Who do you think we're talking to?
yeah. So I think that also comes into play a lot when it comes to the whole definition of that's rock,
I agree.
because it's that attitude.
I agree. 100%. 100%.
And once again, every freaking time.
Every freaking time. It's almost like they're part of a certain tribe. Yeah, so very fun. No, but actually, you're correct. I think you're correct. Because it wasn't a phenomenon before.
Don't think so.
Because think of Kate Bush. Music. Those ones.
Yeah. Well spent.
Yeah. Kate Bush. Her music is quintessential that's rock. 100%.
Yeah, actually, yeah,
100%. 100%, man. Because why? This is the question. We can agree. But why? I think
Because
it's a mix.
it sounds from that era.
That's the first thing.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's the most noticeable thing. It doesn't sound stupid. It sounds good. You know what? No, it's
I
not
know.
loud. It's not loud. It has dynamic range.
Not overly compressed.
Most of what I praise in this channel
Yeah.
is always is basically the dynamic range in music.
That's rock sound.
That's rock sound. I know that a good chunk of the people watching this and subscribe to this channel actually appreciate
Yeah.
that rock sound because it's the good one.
Yeah. It's a badge of honor, actually.
It is. I consider it a badge of honor because all of those so-called that rock bands are some of the best
Yeah.
ever. And I think that it begins with the sound. It sounds. Oh, it sounds too dated. What? I miss the bass. I'm all about the bass. I love the bass. You don't even. The bass sound. For it to actually hit you, you need to have a proper system first and foremost.
Yeah.
So they do the way that music is mixed now is mixed for that bass sound to hit you as hard as it can on goddamn earbuds. That's why it sounds the way it do.
It
It
shouldn't
does.
even be the case. It shouldn't come through the same way.
No, it doesn't.
No,
translate.
it doesn't.
It doesn't translate correctly, man. It's a feat of engineering when they manage to pull it off. I always tip my hat, my proverbial fedora, whenever I find one of those stupidly produced sound pop records that have the somehow you manage to do it here.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, but dude. And I think is that newer generations were Pavlovianly trained into thinking that good music has to sound like this modern way to produce music. And as soon as they listen to something that it's not like this, oh no, this is all this, I don't like it, it makes me feel. First, secondly, instrumentation. They claim that rock music is all guitars, drums, and bass.
What else do you want?
No, but secondly, it's like saying that classical music is all violins, violas, and cellos. Or it's like saying, I don't like singing because it's always a human voice. Like, do you see the stupidity of the argument? It's
Yeah.
dumb. It's low IQ. Not for real, and it truly pisses me off because, like, that's not an argument, man.
And look, it's interesting how it's showing that it is kind of like it's not only a cyclical thing, it's a particularity to
This.
a particular generation. Because let's say we're talking about in the framing of That's Rock, music that was released, let's say 25 years ago, not that long.
Yeah, the earliest.
But think of we being 25 years ago. Now is the 2000s.
When you were a kid, you had that rock thing?
No, exactly. But imagine you were an adult in
Yes.
the mid 90s.
Yes.
Would you think that Led Zeppelin was That's Rock?
No, I think the closest it was oldies. Maybe, because it wasn't that long ago that they stopped being active. Probably, let's say, mid-90s, you're like 20, when in 96, 97. They've been away for 10 years only. So it's not that they became out of fashion. They were already a legacy act, but far from being oldies, man.
Yeah.
Or Metallica at that point, it was their highest point in their career, even though they began 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd decided to stop being geriatric 3 years ago, at that point in time. They decided to finally retire. So to the nursing home. But you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
No, I think this is just a new phenomenon, exclusive to millennials and Zoomers.
But look,
Would you say it's a psyop?
you use the word fashion
Yeah.
a while back in this context. I think it kind of relates quite a lot to what kind of music is fashionable, and I'm talking of course, what is very overly exposed. Up until the early 90s,
Would you say promoted?
up until the early 90s, you still had good music
Yes.
being face fronting, being very, very present in a mainstream fashion. That began to change in the mid 90s.
Yeah,
I think.
agreed.
From the mid 90s onwards, and going progressively worse with time, you had worse and worse music being mainstream.
Yeah, and I think it sped up during the 2010s.
Yeah.
That's when it truly ramped
Yeah.
up in not ramped down in quality. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I think the relationship of the creation of this perception of that rock, because now tackling it from a more metaphysical perspective, okay?
God damn, that's a big word.
It is. It relates quite a lot to what's in vogue, to what is mainstream, and rock stopped being mainstream in the early 90s.
Yeah, I would say mid 90s was the final blow.
So basically, that's what threw a range into old rock, into classic rock.
Yes.
What should be known as classic rock became dad's rock
Yeah.
because what the kids were listening to sucks.
Agreed.
Because it's very different from dad's rock.
No, it's not different. It's a lesser quality product.
It is.
Yeah. Because think of this. You remind me of Rage Against the Machine. Mid 90s.
Yeah.
You might even dare to say that it's a kind of early 2000s band due to their success happening.
Yeah.
2002 was probably their biggest, the most successful period. They are full on class. That's Rockman.
Yeah.
Their sound is fully influenced by Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, they're probably one of the latest
That's rock. Yeah.
bands.
Even Audioslave. Now that we're talking about these guys, don't tell me that's super That's Rock at this stage, man. It sounds like That's Rock.
But basically, everything that is real rock music is falling into the that's rock
We're
category.
starting to get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to lead you into.
Yeah.
Because you start to like, so That's Rock equals good rock music. Is that what you're saying? Because none of these bands that we have mentioned sucked.
No.
Or sucks at any point. Because I may have my differences ideologically speaking with Tom Morello, but he's a goddamn great guitar player, man.
His.
He's a very good guitar player.
The first two albums of Rage Against the Machine
Oof,
are
man.
excellent.
Foof. I think as an album, we can even dedicate an entire episode on this guy because I love their music, man.
Yeah.
Their second album, I think, is better than the first one. Changed my mind. But the first one has better songs. Because, yeah.
Yeah, because some of the hits are
Is it in the name of?
killing the name of
Yeah.
some of the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a badass song.
Yeah, I'm listening to the riff like. Yeah.
But look, usually, because that's kind of heavy. I won't say that it's super heavy, but it's kind of heavy for rock.
I mean, but it's heavy blues, but heavier.
Yeah, but look, I'm feeling now that I start to think about it, that the heavier it is, the furthest it is from that rock. I think usually you wouldn't have ultra heavy things
That
as
might be
that's
the
rock.
reason why you had issues with Metallica being part of the That's Rock
Yeah.
thing.
Because for instance, would you say that Megadeth is that's rock?
No. Good point. But look, Metallica's Black Album, that's Rock.
But I
And
think
Enter Sandman is the quintessential That's Rock song.
that song in particular, yeah. But
That
that
album. Don't tell me that Nothing Else Matters
the thing is
has you up to here with it.
that album is coming from Metallica, but it's basically not a metal album. I said it. It's
Agreed.
for real.
Agreed.
So
It's a good heavy rock album. With
pop aesthetics.
yeah, and moments of metal.
Yeah, because when it comes to the production, it's very poppy.
Yeah.
Production-wise, the compositions are not. We're talking completely different things.
It's rock music
Yeah,
with balls.
yeah.
And at points, metal. Because probably the heaviest song is freaking. What's the name of that guy? Salvatore.
Which is a better song. It's a very good song. Yeah.
The riff is in my head.
But that song is a That's Rock song.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's not a metal song.
No.
Even though it's the heaviest out of the bunch, it's not a metal song.
Also of Wolf and Man. That's from that album as well, right?
I don't think so.
I might.
I'm kind of getting my Metallica
Yeah,
lore.
yeah, right now, yeah, because right now I'm thinking of so many bands right now. So yeah, but well, whatever. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. That album
Yeah.
sounds is kind of rock,
Yeah.
but super heavy rock.
And I don't think usually metal bands would fit within the That's Rock category.
I agree with that.
But for
one.
instance,
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden, I was about to bring Iron
I
Maiden.
think Iron Maiden is that rock,
I think it is.
but it's goddamn heavy metal.
It is.
You can go heavy metal. You can go
Black
more
Sabbath is That's Rock.
super. That's rock. Both every iteration. Yeah, so you
it's kind of hard.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the heaviness, because but it's the sound, it's the style, it's the aesthetics, man. Because you will say, oh yeah, but Black Sabbath doesn't sound like Iron Maiden, but yeah, of course not, by any stretch of imagination, far from it. The thing is that probably we come back to the same concept. They're good. so
Yeah.
I'm starting to get to the conclusion that if it's good, it's that rock.
Not necessarily, because for instance, I don't think Dream Theater is That's Rock.
Yeah, but that there is popular, man. But I get your point. I get your point.
Yeah.
Because more nerdier bands, for example, Yes, outside of that horrible album that we never mentioned.
The one with the numbers, I forgot.
Yeah,
that.
I don't care. The popular, the uber popular one, the one that sold millions and millions of copies from in the 80s. By killing Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
That album's That's Rock.
Is that rock, but nothing from the past. None of the albums. The previous albums, none of them. Genesis, the same.
I think Genesis That's Rock.
Yeah, but Peter Gabriel without Peter Gabriel, sans Peter Gabriel.
No, without Peter Gabriel, the Phil Collins era, it's ultimate That's Rock.
That's rock at its fullest.
Yeah.
But
I think that even the one with Peter Gabriel is still That's Rock.
No, man. Selling England by the Pound.
That's such a good album. Yeah.
This was with. But that's from Foxtrot. I just don't remember the name of that song.
But I think
Guardians in the Sky.
But it sounds like That Rock.
That sounds like prog rock from the late 60s, early 70s.
Would you say the King Crimson is That Rock?
No.
Why?
Because it's weird. Yeah, no, think of this. Because now I'm starting to see that it has its exceptions.
Yeah.
This prog era is not necessarily. It has that rock moments.
Because look, Emerson, Lake and Palmer is not That Rock.
No.
Nah, it's far from it.
No. Eloy, no. Gentle Giant, no.
Gentle Giant is kind of That Rock.
Kinda.
Jethro 2 is kind of That Rock.
Yeah, totally is.
Yeah.
But how about Elijah Hip? No. Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep. The thing is that no, they are kinda yes, because they're. No, Uriah Heep's such a great band as well. But the thing is that they're like one of the first forays into prog metal. Earlier, of course,
yeah.
they're not prog metal. The thing is that they were heavier than the rest. Scorpions is uber, that's rock. And I
yeah.
mention Scorpions because at the beginning of their career, they were actually a goddamn super cool 70s sounding prog rock band.
Yeah, and then they also kind of disprove my point about it being about heaviness.
Yeah, because they went
think
super
they're
heavy later, yeah.
Yeah. And still, ultimately, That's Rock.
And also,
Uncontestably.
yeah, and then if we are now getting into this hard rock territory, Whitesnake.
That's Rock.
Super, that's rock.
Yeah.
And it's heavy as balls.
Yeah. But for instance, would you say that Dokken is That's Rock?
Oof, yeah.
I don't think it is.
Come on, it's super, that's rock, man.
Why?
We're the Night Dream Warriors, man. Come on, super, that's rock.
I don't think so.
I mean, come on, you're just trying to, because you don't like the terminology. You're trying to all of the ones you don't like. No.
Depeche Mode.
Super.
You think it is?
Yes, super. That's rock. Why? It's not bad. Let's begin from there. No, but I think it's because of it's there is something about it. I can see why millennials, because I'm part of the millennial generation as well.
Yeah.
I get it. I think it's wrong.
Don't agree, but I get it.
Yeah, I get it. It's super hard to pinpoint because Depeche Mode, Roxette, Eurovision, all of those. Man, don't tell me they're not that rock. Full on.
Yeah, it is.
What's the name of this? Annie Lennox. All of those guys from that 80s era, they are that rock, man. Tina Turner.
Yeah, actually.
Come on,
it is.
Even Whitney Houston.
I don't think that's rock.
No, that's pop.
Yeah, because
But it's more R&B. It's more on the R&B, but you know what I mean. It's because Tina Turner is rock, but since she has a little bit of similarities to the sound of the voice of Whitney Houston, this other black guy, the Essential Love.
Oh, what's his
fantastic.
name? Yeah.
How can I forget his name? Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
That's rock.
Steven's not even rock music.
It's fun.
It's good.
It's good. It's just good. Yeah, but because I cannot position him as in a genre man because
Yeah.
R&B, but R&B is the most generic
It's
label
not a
you
genre.
can put on anybody. Yes, it's not
Yeah,
a genre man.
Steve Wonder.
Yeah, but
they think that dad's music. Yeah, now we're getting into the territory of dad's music
yeah.
because I think the term still applies, but it's not dad's rock.
Yeah, because for example, another keyboard player, another black guy playing keyboards, Harry Hancock.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's rock.
No,
It's not that's rock.
because it's way too goddamn progressive.
Yeah, it's way too crazy. Because look, the same that you mentioned about King Crimson, for instance,
applies
that's
to
way
him.
too crazy. Applies
Somehow,
Yeah.
somehow, because the aesthetics is super that's rock,
Mm-hmm.
but no. The same what happens with Chick Corea.
Mm-hmm. It's way too crazy.
It's way too goddamn crazy.
Way too good as well.
Yeah.
No, but it's also not rock because they of course they liked rock and it shows.
No, but it's fusion, man.
It's
That's
fusion,
That's
yeah.
fusion. Yeah, but I'm trying to go to as many places as possible because I'm starting to see patterns.
Because it's interesting how wide the scope of the terminology of that
Yes,
rock
it
is.
applies.
Yeah, because at the moment I had a few very clear examples in my head, like your Eagles and stuff.
Yes.
But honestly, now thinking about it, it's very far-ranging.
Yeah. The Rich is gigantic because Dio, come on,
Because that rock.
full on.
It is heavy. So once again,
yeah, it's full on. That's why I even dare to say that even Dimmu Borgir, to a certain degree, at one point in time, he will be considered that rock.
but it's not big enough to be that rock.
No,
Sorry to say.
I know. They are not that popular, and even this is the most popular name in the genre is not that popular. Yeah, because these guys that I reacted to the other day, Pentagram, the ones that became popular, that's that rock, man.
That's rock. Yeah, it is.
Full on.
And they've been around for around
Since
for
the
a
beginning
while.
of time.
Yeah.
So
Right there with we didn't mention them, but
Ozzy.
Ultimate That's Rock, Rolling Stones.
oh yeah,
They're probably one of
don't
the
know.
deadiest rocks.
I don't know if it's the Rolling Stones or Deep Purple.
They think that the Purple's way too good, man.
No, but the Rolling Stones are also very good, man.
No disrespect to the Rolling
No,
Stones. just that,
I think that I prefer as well by orders of magnitude
Deep Purple. Yeah.
But look, don't tell me that goddamn Smoking the Water is man. That's that even the riff.
Smoke the Water is almost not Deep Purple, because
I
it's
know.
one of those cases that
I know, man, but Highway Star.
badass song. That's rock. It's super. That's rock. Yeah. It's
You
super,
see what I'm
super
getting? Because it's way too obvious that there is something that makes them that's rock.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got Child in Time.
Mm.
No, that's not that rock.
No, don't think so.
That's kind of prog, crazy, kind of King Crimson territory.
It's Pink Floyd. That's rock.
Yes or no?
Elaborate.
I'm not Rick the Wall.
Mm.
The daddiest of the daddiest.
You think so? Why? Like sugar daddy levels.
Yeah. Boomer bands. Great performances
Mm-hmm.
across the board.
Mm.
Fantastic production.
Mm.
Amazing composition. Great sound design.
Mm.
Beautiful arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly good guitar solo
Mm.
that transcended history and mankind itself.
Yeah.
It has everything. Every single one of those boxes tick. Therefore, it's great. Therefore, that's rock. no, I think it's because it's the way on it. No, it's so
Mm-hmm.
goddamn popular, man.
Mm-hmm.
That even people who doesn't know anything about the Floyd,
Yeah.
they know the song.
Yeah. True.
And I think that's partially what makes a song be considered that's rock, being popular.
Mm.
We already gave
Yeah.
we already gave examples of music that is that's rock that is not popular. I know,
But look-
but I see that this is also one of the indicatives.
Pink Floyd is interesting because I don't think the psychedelic era
Yeah,
was that rock. Because once again, it's too crazy.
yeah, but I don't look. I also said yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you pick another Brick in the Wall, and probably that's the only song, that one and Comfortable Numb
Mm-hmm.
are the daddiest rock songs by them. But everything else
Mm-hmm.
is not.
Not really. Yeah.
Why? It doesn't sound like that rock.
David Gilmour's solo career is full on that rock, even though it came
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, but yeah, especially on an island.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, Like, I can feel my bones aching.
They are trying to
Yeah.
creeping in.
Yeah, like, damn.
But look, even though that album is super geriatric, I love that album.
It's a great album.
On an Island is a very good album. I think it's actually the best out of his solo career.
Agreed. Fantastic, everything
Yeah.
about it. The actual title track on an island.
Yeah. Super.
The feels.
Yeah.
The feels.
It hits hard.
Yeah, at the guitars were like,
Yeah.
you did it again. Oh my God, David Gilmour, you're such a great musician. God damn it.
Yeah.
God bless your soul.
Roger Waters, solo. Love the reaction.
Look. I love Roger. Huge respect for him. Huge, gigantic fan of his writing style.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best lyricists in history
Yeah.
of rock music, of course. He was the bass player for Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
He did his job correctly.
For the bass player.
He never got in the way of David,
Yeah.
so I applaud that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think his weakness is writing music, and I'm not trying to be funny. I think he's not a great composer. He's a great conceptualist.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, because he has great ideas. He actually has a knack for picking concepts and turning them into music in a way that it's very, very profound and unique.
Yeah.
He's great at it, but I don't think he's a great composer. In fact, he needs the Floyd.
Yeah, and actually the efforts in his solo career are kind of an evidence to that, because he never had anything of the likes of the good stuff out of Pink Floyd on his solo career.
And
David Gilmour did.
Yeah, David Gilmour did.
Yeah.
So David Gilmour could do it without the Floyd. And I even think that when Roger left, Pink Floyd sucked. But David Gilmour solo career, in my head canon, those are the actual official Pink Floyd albums, because David Gilmour's stuff sounds like the Floyd. But
Kinda. Yeah.
the natural progression of their music throughout time, because it sounds this is Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Nah, don't even try to change my mind. Yeah, just compare any of the two albums without Roger Waters, and because I think they both need each other, because one contains the other.
Yeah, it was a good balance there.
Yeah,
It was a shame that they had to part ways, but regardless.
It's not. They are not my relatives, so I cannot give any more of a damn. So yeah.
Okay, so I think we can be getting to the final picks.
Could you define?
It's wider than I expected in the beginning.
Me too.
Of the
No,
conversation.
because for real, when we picked this topic this morning, we're not gonna end up talking about Guns N' Roses, and the usual suspect of. Wait a second, I don't even know what the term actually means, because I know which bands are, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't, and I couldn't define it, even though we spent an hour trying to define it.
Look, I have a bit of a not a definition, but a take on the matter.
Go ahead.
Throughout, let's say, rock music beginning on the 60s,
Yes.
and going like progressively changing from that point in time. Every single generation, let's say from 60s to 70s, 70s to 80s, even though there were very palpable changes, those changes were still respecting what came before. So you didn't have that rock phenomenon, because you still had respect for whatever was done before. I think that what happened to music in the mid 90s onwards wasn't just a natural progression on what was already happening. It was a complete 180. And I think that was the problem, because that kinda broke the natural progression that made you respect what came before. Now, since things changed dramatically, you couldn't give less of a damn for what came before, because you do better.
Get you.
Because you're better.
Yeah, I get you.
And that's why even the rock and rollers from this, if they can even be called rock and rollers from this period, they think too highly of themselves.
It almost sounds like a revolution, like a cultural revolution. Just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like what you described happened not only to music but also to movies, Nowadays, we're seeing it quite often with video games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of a certain kind of revolution, a cultural one. Just saying.
But I think that's a talk for a different show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a completely different platform because
Yeah.
we're live streaming on YouTube as well. So yeah, so with that being said, let me give you my final take.
Yeah.
As I said before, I wasn't expecting this to go this deep because I thought at the beginning that we would end up just talking about badass old music,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, no. We couldn't even define on its entirety the concept of that truck.
Which white?
But the thing is that could it be in purpose? Because we can easily throw anything into it because it has no. It almost feels like an identity without an essence. Just saying, it kind of reminds me of many more psyops. So whatever. We're just trying to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. I think it's a very, very terrible term. I think it's not helping anybody, and also this better than thou attitude coming from those who on this kind of old music is not. It's only creating a divide, because when this guy from Polyphia, he's a very, very good guitar player. I'm not gonna deny that he's very, very good with his fingers. Said that in such a way. I don't know if he did it in meaning ill. Probably he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But the choice for the words was kind of bad, man.
Regardless of ill intent, it shows how he feels about it.
Exactly. In the end, it was a Freudian slip, if you wish. He simply couldn't sugarcoat more his stance when it comes to looking at different guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of has a little bit of, not a little bit, quite a lot of relationship with the discussion we got on their channel about uniqueness.
Yeah.
And how uniqueness means nothing. What matters is being good. Being unique doesn't make you good. It simply makes you different. And I think it comes, what that guy said, and this whole concept of that truck comes from the same source.
Agreed.
Because it's more of a mentality. There is some form of cultural thing. I don't even know what word to use.
Like a paradigm shift.
Kind of, because I was able to use cultural shift, but it's not necessarily a shift, man. Because think of this. What does culture mean? First and foremost, do you know what culture means? Where does it come from?
The definition itself?
No. Cult. What is a cult? A cult is when you venerate something that you consider the highest, the most important. Culture is the worship of what we consider the highest, the biggest, the most important at a societal level, right? So something happened that we blindfolded ourselves, rather, or changed the definition of what it means to be good. Therefore, the cult around what is important, what is the best, move over to something else that is not the best and is neither important. And you antagonize the truth by positioning those guys who are into the new zeitgeist, the new culture, to look down on what, objectively speaking, is good that happened before, because we're in a constant progression towards perfection. And that means that anything from the past cannot be better than what we got today, because that means that we're wrong. And we cannot be wrong. Get me?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful with what I'm saying, okay?
This doesn't happen naturally, because what you're exposing is something that is the natural development of things. And if that cycle is broken, it should happen from the outside.
Yeah, you're saying that a particularly happy individual.
I'm not saying anything.
Just dropping my 2 cents.
I'm just inviting you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. And also, if you want to be part of more conversations like this one, ring the bell. That way you can be notified of when...
Allegedly, because several content creators, not only the Quarterly, another batch of content creators of different areas on the YouTubes are complaining about the same.
Yeah? Okay.
They did something, man.
Yeah,
they did something.
It's going on in
so
the background.
and it's happening to tiny channels such as these ones, but also it's happening to big ones. So there is something funky going on.
Okay.
So please help. And the best way to do it is by liking, subscribing, ringing the bell.
Yeah.
And if you want to push this thing a little bit further, you can do it by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify. And as he said, join these conversations because this happens every week. This time table. We're still testing shit because this is a very young channel.
Yeah.
So we're trying to see which time table accommodates for a better audience.
But for the time being,
Let us know.
We are doing this on Thursdays at 5 Central. We might change that later, but for the time being, if you want to be part of this conversation, next week we're going to be here.
Yes.
So you're more than invited.
Yes, so thanks for joining. Thank you for watching. As every single time we meet you, we remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that we will see you when we see you.